"You don't belong here. Get out of this school immediately." The district checking officer barked at 53-year-old Linda Rodriguez as she tried to enter Jefferson Elementary with her teaching supplies. Parents dropping off their children stopped to stare as Officer Williams blocked the decorated substitute teacher from the building where she had quietly worked for 2 years. Linda's hands shook as she clutched her lesson plans, unaware that among the watching crowd stood Colonel James Mitchell, who would soon recognize the Navy Cross recipient who had saved his life in Iraq 15 years ago. What happens next will absolutely blow your mind. If you believe teachers deserve respect, smash that subscribe button and tell us in the comments, have you ever seen someone get judged without knowing their full story? Stay tuned, because Linda's recognition will give you chills and restore your faith in humanity. Linda Rodriguez had been substitute teaching at Jefferson Elementary for 2 years. At 53, she brought a calm authority to chaotic classrooms that other teachers admired. Students respected her, parents trusted her, and the principal always called her first when they needed reliable coverage. But Linda was careful never to talk about her past. She kept her military service private, focusing instead on helping children learn and grow. Most people saw her as just another substitute teacher trying to make ends meet. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Linda arrived at school early, carrying her bag of teaching supplies and the lesson plans she had prepared the night before. She always over-prepared, a habit from her military days when being ready could mean the difference between life and death. The parking lot was busy with parents dropping off their children. Linda waved to Mrs. Chen, whose daughter was in the 4th grade class Linda would be covering today. She smiled at the Martinez family, whose twin boys always lit up when they saw her in the hallway. But as Linda approached the main entrance, a man in a district security uniform stepped in front of her. "Stop right there," he ordered. "You can't enter this building." Linda looked at Officer Williams with confusion. She had seen him around the district before, but they had never spoken directly. "I'm Linda Rodriguez," she said politely. "I'm the substitute teacher for Mrs. Patterson's class today." "Not anymore, you're not," Officer Williams replied with authority. "I don't understand," Linda said. "Principal Johnson called me yesterday to confirm. The children are expecting me." "There's been a complaint," Officer Williams announced loudly. "Someone reported suspicious behavior, and we can't have questionable people around our children." By now, several parents had stopped to watch the confrontation. Linda felt her face grow hot with embarrassment as more people gathered to see what was happening. "What kind of complaint?" Linda asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "That's confidential," Officer Williams said, "but I'm telling you right now, you need to leave school property immediately." "Officer, there must be some mistake," Linda protested. "I've been teaching here for 2 years. You can call Principal Johnson to verify." "I don't need to call anyone," Officer Williams replied. "I'm ordering you to leave, and if you don't comply, I'll have you arrested for trespassing." The crowd of parents was growing larger. Linda could hear whispers and see people pulling out their phones to record what was happening. Children were arriving for school and seeing their substitute teacher being publicly humiliated. "Mom, why is Miss Rodriguez in trouble?" asked little Emma Martinez, tugging on her mother's sleeve. "I don't know, sweetie," Mrs. Martinez replied, looking uncomfortable. Linda felt like she was in a nightmare. 2 years of building relationships with these families, 2 years of earning their trust, and now she was being treated like a criminal in front of everyone. "Officer Williams, please," Linda said. "Just let me call Principal Johnson. This can all be cleared up in 2 minutes. No phone calls," Officer Williams declared. "You need to leave now or I'm calling the police." The watching parents were divided. Some looked sympathetic to Linda's situation, while others seemed convinced that where there was smoke, there must be fire. The whispers were getting louder. "I heard she was acting weird yesterday," someone said. "Maybe she failed a background check," another parent suggested. "You never know who they let around our kids these days," a third voice added. Linda felt each comment like a physical blow. These were people whose children she had taught, whose trust she had earned, whose kids ran to hug her in the hallways. "I have my district ID," Linda said, reaching into her purse. "I have my teaching credentials. I have clearance to be here." "I don't care what paperwork you have," Officer Williams snapped. "You're leaving now one way or another." Just then, a tall man in a military uniform approached the crowd. He had been dropping off his daughter when he noticed the commotion. Colonel James Mitchell had served 3 tours in Iraq and was now stationed at the local base. His daughter Sarah was in 3rd grade at Jefferson Elementary, and he recognized Linda as one of the substitute teachers she often talked about. But as he got closer and heard Linda's voice, something stirred in his memory. That voice was familiar, very familiar. "Excuse me, what's going on here?" Colonel Mitchell asked, stepping forward. "None of your business," Officer Williams replied rudely. "I'm handling a security situation." Colonel Mitchell ignored the dismissive tone and looked directly at Linda. "Ma'am, what's your name?" "Linda Rodriguez," she answered, surprised by the question. Colonel Mitchell stared at her for a long moment, studying her face. Then his eyes widened with recognition. "Oh my God," he said, quietly. "Lieutenant Rodriguez." Linda looked at him more closely. The years and the civilian clothes had changed him, but she recognized those eyes. The same eyes that had looked up at her 15 years ago in a bombed-out building in Fallujah. "Captain Mitchell," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, the calm. Crowd sensed something important was happening, but they didn't understand what. Officer Williams was getting impatient. "Look, I don't know what reunion you two are having, but this woman needs to leave school property now." Colonel Mitchell turned to face Officer Williams, his expression hard and military precise. "This woman is Petty Officer First Class Linda Rodriguez, United States Navy," he announced to the crowd. "She's a recipient of the Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism in combat." The parking lot went completely silent. Colonel Mitchell continued, his voice carrying clearly across the crowd. "On March 12, 2009, in Fallujah, Iraq, Lieutenant Rodriguez risked her life to save mine and 11 other Marines when our convoy was hit by an IED. She stayed behind enemy lines for 4 hours, providing medical aid while under continuous fire." Linda felt tears starting to form in her eyes. She had tried so hard to keep her military service private, to just be a normal substitute teacher. Now her past was being exposed in front of everyone. "She dragged me and 3 other wounded soldiers to safety," Colonel Mitchell said, his own voice getting emotional. "She performed field surgery with bullets flying over her head. She called in air support while treating our injuries. She saved our lives." The parents in the crowd were staring at Linda with completely different expressions. Now, the woman they had been ready to see arrested was a decorated war hero. Officer Williams looked confused and angry. "I don't care what she did overseas," he said stubbornly. "I have my orders to remove her from school property." "Your orders, Colonel?" Mitchell asked, his voice taking on a dangerous edge. "And who exactly gave you those orders?" "The district office," Officer Williams replied, but his confidence was wavering. "Based on what complaint?" Colonel Mitchell pressed. "That's confidential." Officer Williams repeated. Colonel Mitchell pulled out his phone. "Then let's call the district office right now and get this sorted out." Before Officer Williams could object, Principal Johnson came running out of the building. She had heard about the commotion and come to see what was happening. "Linda, what's going on?" Principal Johnson asked, clearly confused. "Officer Williams claimed there was a complaint about me," Linda explained. "He's trying to remove me from school property." Principal Johnson looked at Officer Williams with genuine confusion. "What complaint?" "I spoke to Linda yesterday. She's scheduled to cover Mrs. Patterson's class today." Officer Williams fumbled with his radio. "The district office told me there was a problem with her background check." Principal Johnson shook her head. "Linda's background check is current. She's been cleared to work in our district for 2 years. I think there's been a serious misunderstanding." The crowd of parents was growing larger as more families arrived for school drop-off. Word was spreading quickly about what was happening. Colonel Mitchell stepped closer to Officer Williams. "I think you owe this woman an apology," he said firmly. "I was just doing my job," Officer Williams replied defensively. "Your job is to protect our children," Colonel Mitchell shot back. "Not to humiliate a decorated war hero based on false information." Linda tried to speak up. "It's okay, really. I just want to teach the children." But Colonel Mitchell wasn't finished. He turned to address the crowd of parents. "This woman saved my life and the lives of 11 other Marines," he announced. "She has a Navy Cross, a Purple Heart, and 2 Bronze Stars. She came home from war and chose to dedicate her life to teaching your children. And you all just stood here and watched while..." Someone tried to kick her out based on lies. The parents looked ashamed. Many of them were taking out their phones, but now to delete the videos they had been recording rather than to share Linda's humiliation. Mrs. Martinez stepped forward with her twin boys. "Miss Rodriguez, I'm so sorry. The boys love having you as their teacher. We had no idea you were a war hero." "I'm not a hero," Linda said quietly. "I just did my job, like you're doing your job here," Colonel Mitchell added. "Teaching and protecting children, just like you protected us overseas." Principal Johnson was furious with Officer Williams. "You need to contact your supervisor immediately and find out how this happened. This is completely unacceptable." Officer Williams was clearly embarrassed and angry, but he made the call. After a tense 5-minute conversation, he hung up and approached Linda. There was a mix-up in the system, he said reluctantly. Someone with a similar name had an issue with their background check. "I apologize for the confusion." Linda nodded but said nothing. The crowd began to disperse as children were called into the building for the start of the school day, but many parents stopped to speak with Linda before leaving. "Thank you for your service," said Mr. Kim. "We're honored to have you teaching our children," added Mrs. Peterson. "I'm sorry we didn't stand up for you," said another parent. Linda accepted their apologies with grace, but inside she was still processing what had happened. Her carefully guarded privacy was gone. Everyone now knew about her military service. Colonel Mitchell approached her as the parking lot cleared. "Linda, I can't thank you enough for what you did for me and my men that day," he said. "But I also can't apologize enough for what just happened." "Here, it's not your fault," Linda replied. "Maybe not, but I should have recognized you sooner. I should have spoken up before that guy humiliated you in front of everyone." "You did speak up when it mattered," Linda said. "That's what counts." Colonel Mitchell handed her his business card. "If you ever need anything, please call me." "And Linda? My daughter Sarah talks about you all the time. She says you're the best substitute teacher in the school." Linda smiled for the first time that morning. "She talks about you too. She's very proud of her dad." As Colonel Mitchell walked away, Linda gathered her teaching supplies and headed into the building. The morning had been traumatic, but she still had a job to do. Mrs. Patterson's 4th grade class was waiting for her. When she entered the classroom, the children greeted her with their usual enthusiasm. They had no idea what had happened in the parking lot, and Linda was grateful for their innocent excitement about the day ahead. As the morning progressed, Linda found herself thinking about Colonel Mitchell's words. She had spent 2 years trying to be invisible, avoiding any mention of her military service. She thought keeping quiet would protect her from judgment and unwanted attention. But maybe hiding her past wasn't the answer. Maybe her experience as a combat medic was exactly what made her a good teacher. She had learned to stay calm under pressure, to think quickly in crisis situations, to put others' needs before her own. During lunch, Principal Johnson came to check on her. "Linda, I'm so sorry about this morning," she said. "The district is investigating how that mix-up happened. It's completely unacceptable." "Thank you," Linda replied. "I appreciate your support." Principal Johnson sat down across from her. "I had no idea about your military service. That's incredible. What you did overseas." "I don't usually talk about it," Linda admitted. "I wanted to just be a regular teacher." "But you're not a regular teacher," Principal Johnson said gently. "You're an extraordinary person who brings something special to our school. Maybe it's time our community knew what kind of person is teaching their children." That afternoon, Linda received dozens of messages from parents, teachers, and community members who had heard about the morning's events. Most were apologetic and grateful. A few were from other veterans who wanted to thank her for her service. But the message that meant the most came from little Emma Martinez, delivered through her mother. "Miss Rodriguez, Emma wanted me to tell you that she doesn't care if you're a war hero or just a regular teacher. She loves you either way, and she's glad you didn't leave our school today." Linda smiled and wiped away a tear. This was why she taught, not for recognition or thanks, but for children like Emma who saw past uniforms and medals to the person underneath. The next day, Linda returned to Jefferson Elementary with her head held a little higher. She was still the same dedicated teacher she had always been. But now she no longer felt the need to hide who she was or what she had accomplished. Sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought with weapons and tactics. Sometimes they're fought with patience and understanding, in classrooms where the future is shaped one child at a time. Linda Rodriguez had served her country with honor overseas. Now she was serving her community with the same dedication at home. And she was learning that both forms of service deserved equal respect and recognition.